Article 4 of the fund agreement, there is an agreement which is known as fund agreement as per Article 4, which requires every member to establish a par value of its currency in terms of either gold or US dollar. So every member country will have to contribute either gold or US dollar. Currencies were defined in terms of both gold and dollar, and exchange rates were determined in almost the same way as under the gold standard. As under the gold standard. For example, the parity of the British pound was set at pound, say 12 per ounce of gold. Since the gold price of the dollar was $35 per ounce. So each member of the fund was under a statutory obligation to declare a par value in relation to the gold content of US dollar in 1944. Most countries fulfill their obligation, and even those who failed to declare par value maintain de facto parties until the beginning of 1970, when the Bretton Woods system was pegged exchange rates permanently and was replaced by the system of managed floating exchange rates. So this was about quotas and par value. Quotas and par value. Member country can have transaction with the fund only at the official par value. So whatever member country is there, they can have transaction only at the official par value. Even the private transaction in any member country should be based on this par value. The article of agreement authorize its member countries to permit spot transaction in members' currencies at exchange rates not more than 1% above or below parity. So this was the condition. It should not be above or below than 1%. The rights of the member countries to draw on the fund, their contribution and voting power have been determined according to their quotas. So every country was given a particular quota. So with that quota, it means that was the transaction limit according to the quota. Each member country quota has been negotiated with reference to its national income, gold and foreign exchange reserves. Now suppose a particular country, if they want more quota, so just saying more quota, IMF will not sanction. So what is the criteria for sanctioning more quota? The criteria was national income. What is the national income of that particular country? As well, their production capacity. So these factors were observed by IMF. A country whose national income far better than other country compared to other countries, such country can be given additional quota, or their quota can be extended. So again, I repeat this point. Suppose a particular country wants more quota, such country will be given quota on the basis of national income. If there is a sizable national income compared to other countries, definitely additional quota will be sanctioned by IMF. Vice versa, suppose if national income, if it is average or below average, such country in any case will not be given additional quota by IMF. Are you clear with this point? How country gets additional quota or more quota? Are you clear with this point? So additional quota is given on the basis of national income. Now, before Bretton Woods system broke down, this par value of a currency was not be exchanged unless necessary to correct fundamental disequilibrium. The rights of the member countries to draw on the fund, their contribution, and voting power have been determined according to their quotas. Each member country is eligible for additional quota, but only they need to submit the information about their national income, gold, and foreign exchange reserve. So reserve should be sufficient. Foreign exchange reserve. As a rule, member countries except the ones with low international reserve were required to contribute 25% of their respective quota to the fund in gold or US dollar, either in terms of gold or US dollar. As we know that there are 185 plus countries are member of International Monetary Fund. So IMF member size is a large one. 185 plus countries are member of IMF. And among these 185 countries, United States of America, USA, having largest quota. The largest quota is that of United States, accounting for almost 18%. To be very precise, their quota is 17.5%. So we can say almost 18%. and remaining 82% goes to the 184 countries. So only one country alone, USA, is having 18% quota. So make a note of this point. The largest quota is that of USA, and which accounting for 18% of the total quota. Then who are next after USA? Any guesses? After USA, who is having the largest quota of IMF? Any guesses? Developed countries like say Germany, Japan, France. So these are the other leading country members of the fund. UK, West Germany, France and Japan. The quotas of members nation have been increased across the board several times since for 1947. So right from 1947, this quota has been increasing. The IMF may supplement its quota resources by borrowing any country's currency. This was institutionalized by the General Agreement to Borrow. General Agreement to Borrow, that is GOA, sorry, GAB. Hello? Hello? Am I audible? Hello? आवाज येतोय का? Hello?
Hello.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Now we will talk about the SDR. SDR stand for Special Drawing Rights. SDR. S for special, D for drawing, R for rights. So this is one of the fund. Drawing means to withdraw. That is drawing. Drawing means to withdraw fund for their specific purpose. So the Board of Governors of IMF at their annual meeting agreed on a proposal for establishing a new reserve facility to meet the possible increase in the demand for international liquidity. If the growth of more traditional reserve asset, gold and foreign exchange should prove inadequate. The agreement provided a system for regularly creating special drawing rights, SDR. The member of fund were required to accept SDR as reserve which they could use in international settlement. The value of SDR as reserve asset essentially depends on the obligation on the obligation of participant to accept them in exchange for convertible currency. Although there are certain restrictions on the participants in respect of the use of SDR in general, they can be automatically used for the settlement. Now, what is the assistance given by IMF? So basically, IMF, which is a lending institution, it is the source of four main forms of financial assistance. Assistance means financial help, that is assistance, financial assistance. So, financial assistance or liquidity to developing countries. So, number one, drawings from the ordinary facilities provided by IMF. Number two, the periodic issue of special drawing rights. Number three, drawings made under a special facility. And number four and last, facilities for low income countries. So the country whose income is very low, such countries, particularly in African, like say Ethiopia, Somalia, these are small countries where they are far away from the development, far away. They do not have even basic infrastructure, particularly in Somalia and Ethiopia. Nowadays, Ethiopia is progressing, but when IMF was formed, during that time, Somalia and Ethiopia belongs to the low income country. And as the time passes, IMF had a thought, why not to have some different kind of fund. So they created during 1974 extended fund facility. In short, it is known as EFF. E stand for extended, F for fund, and another F for facility. Extended fund facility, EFF. And this is basically to allow developing countries to borrow beyond quota over longer period than are allowed under ordinary drawing rights. This is a medium term program aimed at overcoming structural balance of payment. Now in this, the participants are not allowed to use special drawing rights for changing the composition of their reserve. In other words, if a country has no balance of payment problem and yet it wants to transfer its SDR to another participant for some convertible currency, it would not be permitted to do so. But the purpose of particular quantitative limits, however, if the fund is convinced that a participant has used SDR for some inappropriate purpose. It may be advised other participants to use the same amount of their SDR for transfer to the misbehaving participants, forcing him thereby to surrender the currency inappropriately acquired. Now, in terms of special facilities, a number of special facilities are also provided by the IMF to deal with the development difficulties arising out of balance payment problem. At present, there are four main special facilities, and these are compensatory financing facility, then the supplemental reserve facility, number three, contingency credit line, and number four, emergency assistance. Details on special facilities. Are provided through this fund. Now, for example, emergency assistance, emergency facility, which is quick and medium term because it is emergency naturally. So, quick assistance should be given. Now, in regards to the compensatory financing facility, this is also medium term assistance for temporary export shortfall or import excesses. Now, there are also, other than this, there are also agreement at a regional basis. So, these regional basis agreement are number one, intellectual property rights. In short, it is known as TRIP, TRIP, TRIP. TRIP stand for Trade Related Intellectual Property Rights. TRIP. Number two, TRIM. TRIM stand for Trade Related Investment Measures. Trade Related Investment Measures. TRIM. Let's know the detail of TRIP, that is Trade Related Intellectual Property Rights. Protection of intellectual property rights. Examples are patent, copyright, trademark, etc. Has been made more stringent in the Uruguay round. This has been done to protect the interest of multinational corporations and the developed countries, as the agreement on TRIP is highly weighted in favor of patent holder. However, as correctly pointed out by members, that IPR, intellectual property rights, protection is anti-competition and anti-liberalization and goes against the spirit of opening up the world economy and global integration. It amounts to legalizing the monopoly of MNC, multinational company. Thus, protection of IPR is itself a barrier to trade. Let us now see how agreement on trade is likely to work against India. Now let's see how these agreements are working against India, which is not beneficial to India. So some example, Patent Act of India 1970 granted only process patent to drug and medicines. So in that time it was only for drug and medicines. This meant that an Indian company was only required to develop and patent its own process for producing a drug. It was not required to invent the drug itself. The company could then legally manufacture this drug, even if it was protected patent under a product patent abroad. Finally, Indian drug companies were allowed to obtain what are called license of right. And if you remember, even during pandemic time, an Indian company, that is Patanjali, who invented a drug on corona, and they declare on the news platform that we have invented a drug which is useful to eliminate corona. And that time, most of the MNC company they criticize on the owner of Patanjali, that is Baba Ramdev, and this company they strongly objected that how Patanjali can invent this kind of drug. And then finally, Patanjali, because of this international pressure, this drugs and medicine manufacturers, they have a very strong lobby at international level. And this lobby, they pressurize Baba Ramdev to take a back step, and finally it happened. Then Baba Ramdev and their other members of Patanjali, they also kept quiet. And then in that year itself, the company like Serum Institute of India, they invented a vaccination which was useful on elimination of corona. And that was because they followed each and every step of international guideline, because they have built up this team, that is Serum Institute of India, which is Pune based company. They have built up their team like that, and that is why they could get success. And finally, internationally also it is accepted. But the drug which was invented by Patanjali, they did not allow this drug for to cure corona. Are you aware of this thing? Are you aware of this thing? This is not very old story. I think just 3 years before. Are you aware of it? So this is one example that how treaty is working against India. The effects of this law have been positive for India. Indian drug prices are considered to be among the lowest in the world. Actually, the Indian drug, which is having very lowest price in the world. and this is not at the expense of quality. In addition, the indigenous pharmaceutical industry has grown rapidly after the passage of 1970 Act. Not only this, the market share of Indian drug companies in the local drug market went up from 30% to 61% in the year 1993. Today, India is in fact an exporter of drug to other parts of Asia, Europe, and even USA. As I give the example, Serum Institute of India, even in Corona time, they invented vaccination. Even when there was a swine flu, and yes, swine flu, that time also, Serum Institute of India, they invented drug and it was exported almost 165 countries. In addition to the Serum Institute of India, there are also other Indian pharmaceutical manufacturers who are exporting their medicines to the other part of Asia, Europe, and USA. Then the extension of intellectual property rights to agriculture via patenting of plant varieties, about plant varieties, has serious consequences for India. In India, plant breeding and seed production are largely in the public domain. Plant breeding and seed production are largely in the public domain. A poor country where agriculture is the livelihood of majority of the population. The government must bear the responsibility of ensuring the supply of adequate quantities of seeds at reasonable price to the farmer. So patenting of plant varieties will transfer all the gains to the multinational company. Almost all new varieties will belong to MNCs simply by virtue of their massive financial resources. Thus, the multinational companies will come to control the seed production by this country. Since control of seed production implies control over food supply, the entire Indian food security system will be at the mercy of MNCs and with all its dangerous implications. So this is another threat. This is another threat to Indian mission, that is food security system. Then under three, patenting has been extended not only to plant varieties but to large area of microorganism as well. Microorganism refers to very small forms of life. In this category are included such living creatures as bacteria, virus, fungus, the green scum of grows near water, small plants and animals, and even germs. So this is all about a trip and how with this example we understand that how it has worked against India. Now, another agreement, regional agreement. The name of that regional agreement is TRIM. TRIM stand for Trade Related Investment Measures. Developed countries achieved almost everything they wanted from the TRIM agreement in order to make the agreement balance from the point of view of the developing countries. It was necessary to formulate international rules for controlling restrictive business practices of foreign investors. However, the TRIM agreement is totally silent on this vital question, and it is concerned mainly with provisions for elimination of trade related investment measures which are designed to protect the interest of foreign investors, particularly multinational companies in the developing countries. Of course, the developing countries have been allowed to deviate from the provisions of TRIM. Sorry. When applied to the developing countries, the provisions of TRIM will most likely have the effect of undermining any plan or strategy of self-reliant growth based on the technology and other resources available. It could also prove a drain on the foreign exchange reserve of the developing countries, adversely affecting their balance of payment positions. Now we'll try to know about consumption and investment. Now, this a famous economist Keynes, whose theory is theory of income and employment, having stated that the value of employment in society depends on the level of effective demand. The country where there is effective demand, that country will have more employment opportunities. So this is the principle which is highlighted by Keynes. So with this reference, this question addresses following thing. Number one, what is meant by consumption function? What is consumption function? Is it correct to think that the most common consumption function is the constant? Number two, What are the relative income hypotheses? Number three, what is the concept of investment? Now, let us know first consumption and then we will talk about the investment. Now, consumption, whatever be the society, the main purpose of every economic activity, be it production or exchange, is consumption. Most people spend major part of their income. Where they spend major part of the income, most people. Now, even your house or maybe our relatives, whatever they earn, where do we spend that earning? Where do we spend? Where do we spend? Now, in your family also, whatever income you earn, where do you spend that income? On commodities, no? Commodity like say grocery, grain, food. So most of the income part, I'm not saying entire, most of the, suppose almost 70% we spend on commodities. We satisfy their wants directly. It is the behavior of people that motivates them to produce. Now, entrepreneur gets inspiration from this consumption and then they produce more and more things because people are consuming. So let us now understand at the outset as what determines our consumption. Just as microeconomic price is singled out as a primary determinant of quantity taken. Now, when prices are low, people buy more things, and when prices are higher, people buy less things. Now, why they buy less things? Because prices are more. So instead of buying say 10 things, they will purchase only 7 because prices are higher, and within that 7 things, they will manage. So the relationship is expressed in the form of function. Thus, the consumption function is the assumed direct relationship between the national income level and desired consumption expenditure. What is the national income level and desired consumption expenditure? So Keynes, uh, as I told you, the economist, he highlights these things. Now Keynes also has mentioned the tendency as the psychological law of consumption. Psychological law of consumption. Now, what is this? Keynes most probably never used any statistical information to discover this fundamental law. He relied mainly on general observation and deductive reasoning to discover the functional relationship between income and consumption. So, in consumption, we saw national income and desire for expenditure. There should be desire and there should be income also. Just desire will not serve the purpose. Yeah, a person might be having desire but not having money. Then there is no consumption. Now we'll talk about the other function, that is investment function. After understanding consumption function, now we will understand investment function. Now investment has always occupied a crucial position in all macroeconomics theories. This is not only true of Keynesian and post-Keynesian theories, but also pre-Keynesian business cycle theories. This is possibly due to fact that the aggregate investment expenditure constitutes a highly volatile component of aggregate demand. During period of prosperity, investment expenditure is at very high level, but it sinks to inordinately low level. In fact, during depression, investors become reluctant to incur expenditure even for replacing the depreciated capital equipment. Now here it is said that during depression also investors are very reluctant, means they are not very eager to invest. Now let's know the concept of investment. In modern macroeconomics analysis, the term investment refers to the real investment. A company invests sorry, a company invests when it uses steel and other material to build a new warehouse, or when it purchases a new machine. Steel machine and other capital goods are part of real output of the economy. In common parlance, when a person deposits money in his saving account in a bank and or buys shares of company, we say he has invested his saving. Undoubtedly, this is a financial plan. Keeping surplus money in the form of FDR with bank or buying shares of other company. This is financial form, but it is not a real investment as it does not lead to any addition to the physical stock of capital or merely implies a transfer of financial resources. Now let's know about the investment decisions. Although in modern capitalist economy, substantial investment is made in the public sector, we assume that our simple model that all investment decisions are taken by the firms or more strictly by the entrepreneurs who own and manage the company. We further assume that the entrepreneur do business only to earn profit and they wish to maximize them. In the analysis of the investment function, our problem therefore is to explain how a profit maximizing firm will plan its investment. So this is about any entrepreneur who owns a company, and here we are assuming that the entrepreneur, they are doing business for what purpose? To earn profit, and they wish to maximize them. They want to earn profit and their wish is to maximize the profit year after year. See, they are not satisfied with the same amount of profit. They always like to have more and more profit. So in this analysis of the investment function, our problem therefore is to explain how a profit maximizing firm will plan its investment. So this is how it was about the consumption and investment concept.
डायरेक्ट नाही तर त्याला पातीला जाऊन तिथे ठेव.
Please unmute your mic. Mute your mic. Now, the balance of payment effect of a change in investment. When there is a change in investment, then how it balances of payment. Now at the end of session, we'll try to know about the inflation and stagflation. Inflation. Now inflation means where there is a trend in rising of prices. That is known as inflation. In inflation, there is increase in commodity prices. So since inflation has been for a long time and probably will remain in future also. In future also, you will see this kind of inflation. A crucial macroeconomics problem in most of the countries. A large number of economists have attempted to analyze its cause. The purpose of this whole exercise has been find out measures which will keep it within tolerable limit. Inflation, okay, it's okay, but it should be within tolerable limit. If it is going beyond tolerable limit, then it is not good for any society, not only in India but even other than India country also. So it should be within a tolerable limit. Now, without risking occurrences of recession resulting in widespread unemployment. In most cases, the problem has been analyzed in the Keynesian framework. Still, there are economists, particularly the ones associated with Chicago School, who attempt to explain whole malady in terms of quantity of money. This lack of uniformity in the approach has resulted in proliferation of the definition of inflation. Now, recently, our neighboring country like Pakistan and even Sri Lanka, they are facing as I was trying to give you the example, the country who are suffering a lot due to this inflation. Country as Pakistan and Sri Lanka, their commodity prices have been raised like anything. It is out of the reach of common people. Even they are not able to buy a 1 liter of diesel or petrol. Fortunately, that kind of worse situation we do not have. We also have inflation, but it is within tolerable limit. Here also our petrol prices are higher, but still we can afford to buy petrol. But the people from Pakistan and Sri Lanka, they are not able to buy petrol or diesel. So that's a horrible condition. So tolerable limit cannot be defined in words, and there is no measurement. Simply, I can say tolerable limit. It is the limit where you can afford things, and when you are not able to afford, then it is not in tolerable limit. Now, what are the remedies to control inflation? First remedy, that is to decrease the rate of unemployment. If there is a higher unemployment, then try to generate employment opportunities. Now, how it can be done, how it is possible? That it is possible that to allow industry to do their business in a country. And if such countries, if such industry come to our country, then naturally there will be chances for employment. Then government also tries to resolve this problem by having construction of road. So in India, where you are witness in last 3 4 years, in last 10 years, India have developed a lot of roads and national highway like say Samruddhi highway, and there are also many other highways. In olden days also, government of India, they introduced the scheme, uh, guaranteed employee, guaranteed employee scheme. In Marathi, it is known as Rozgar Hami Yojana. In Marathi, it is known as Rozgar Hami Yojana. In English, it is known as Guaranteed Employee Employment Scheme. In this guaranteed employment scheme, the local people are given a job of road construction, and then they are being paid wages from government. And
किती कॉल करायची किती
government can construct a road.
काय समजलं?
This way, the employment opportunities are generated by introducing such kind of schemes. And if this is successful, then automatically people can beat inflation. Easily they can beat inflation because they are having sufficient income in their hand. And when there is a lack of income, then they may not be in a position to beat inflation. So this way, we can explain the remedies for inflation. So generally, government intervenes in regards to this. So this was all about inflation, meaning and remedies for inflation. We also discussed the consumption. We discussed the consumption concept, investment concept, and then meaning of inflation and the remedies for inflation. So do remember this concept, not only from the examination point of view, definitely in examination these concepts are being asked, but from the general knowledge point of view also. We must know that how inflation can be beat, how inflation can be made under control. So here we end our session. In case if you have any doubt, you are free to ask. Otherwise, we'll end the session. Anything you would like to ask? Yes, please. Anything you would like to ask? Okay. If no question, thank you all. We'll end the session. Thank you.